Good evening. To introduce this video, we've both just drunk about 12 pints and are now in the middle of a dinner, so apologies in advance if it doesn't come across very well.
Gotta say, really grateful myself for the kind messages through Boxing Gossip's site. Really pleased to hear you're interested in my content, and of course I'm always grateful and very happy to come on and give my feedback. I too have been drinking tonight and just tucking into a chicken pisser at the moment. It's a nice snack, fairly healthy, and one which my mate Tyson Fury suggested. He's having 2 or 3 of these an hour before his fight of the weekend. So good to go, and look forward to getting on with it.
Just to introduce my friend here, he's been a friend of mine for about 10 years, knows a bit about boxing. He's actually a personal trainer by trade, and he's currently doing the nutritionalist stuff for Huey Fury. So yeah, if he says chicken pitter goes, then it goes for me.
He's a good lad, Huey Fury. He's a few layers of fat from where we'd like him to be, but if we can cut some of the bread and a bit more of the chicken, then we're good to go with Huey.
Cool. When I say Huey Fury, I should just clarify.
We're talking about the shit one.
We're talking about the young one rather than the we're talking about young King Fury, who's known as Huey to his mates, as opposed to
the shit one to me.
As opposed to the guy who's 17-0. Now, let me talk first about the pay-per-view. There's been a lot of discussion about hardcore versus casual fans. I'm a hardcore fan. This guy is so casual he once appeared on Casualty. Give us your indication of the pay-per-view.
Are we talking about the previous pay-per-view at the weekend? The Tony Bellew extravaganza?
Tony Bellew! That's his name, cleverly.
Sat and watched this. As a general sports fan and someone who takes a slightly more than passive interest in boxing, I did set aside my Saturday evening to watch the fighting. I did this at the expense of 2 fairly decent sporting events. We had England rugby, we had England v Samoa, and we also had Man United v Arsenal, both on Sky Sports. But we sat aside, we paid our hard-earned cash to sit and watch this card, which was billed as quite a spectacular event by Eddie Hearn and his minions at Sky. So we sat down, and what I saw was, quite frankly, the most dour 4 or 5 hours of entertainment, of misery I've ever seen. I sat and...
You'll have watched my previous rant about my friend who spent his night on the phone, texting away. It was this individual I was unfortunately
I wasn't just the
referring
phone tonight, I got the iPad out, the laptop, and it was hell. I watched this skinny anorexic chap, McDonald, was it? McSomething. What a joke. Like, he struggled against someone who actually looked the weight for that sort of category. This McDonald, not a fan. Who else did we have? The chap that came over
Scott Quigg.
Scott Quigg.
Bradley
Saunders. Wow, this was boring. It did liven up, to be honest. We saw George Groves come out, and I'm a massive fan of George Groves, as I've said before. Must admit, it was painful viewing. The chap that he fought was better. I think he was better than he was sort of predicted to be. You'd like to see George Groves put that guy away a bit more convincingly.
What did you think about how regularly George Groves was getting hit, especially by the jab of a much smaller man?
I think George Groves will always get hit, sadly. I think this is a trainer issue.
Good point.
I'd like to see George Groves address that sooner rather than later. He's lost to Froch twice. He's come back with these two, this sort of George Groves rebuilding himself, trying to reinvent himself and shape himself up for a title shot. Brilliant. But he's had his 2 easy fights for Brass and this small chap at the weekend. Brilliant. Obviously you could put those away. I could put those away easily. But when it comes to actually...
If you could get down super middleweight.
Which is a big if after this chicken pisser. But I don't know. I'd like to see George Groves take things a bit more seriously. I'd like to see him concentrate a bit more on the boxing, get himself a proper trainer and see where he can go, because I'd like to see him fulfil his potential, which I think is pretty high.
What do you think about him managing and promoting a small stable of fighters whilst being an active boxer himself?
I think boxing itself is. I haven't got a problem with it. If you look at someone like David Hay,
Yeah, he
very
promoted
good
Groves.
boxer, certainly did,
Yeah,
and spends a lot of time outside of boxing, not boxing. I think if you can get your mind in the game and focus when it comes to actually mattering, when it comes to that sort of 4, 8, 12 weeks before a fight, then absolutely fine. So I don't have a problem with it per se. But I think George Groves at the moment is at a bit of a crossroads. I think he's had these mega fights with Froch. They haven't gone to plan. If they've gone great, then we're talking about an altogether different guy. But I don't know if Groves. I think he's sort of right. You know, he's crammed in a couple of fights at the end of this year, trying to sort of help, repair his tarnished record. I think he needs to be very, very sensible of where he takes himself in 2015. I think these world title shot very, achievable, but I think he's got to go the right way about it. And there are threats out there. I mean, there's going to be talk of a Degale fight. There's going to be talk of could there be a Froch 3? I think not. But I think he's got to have a proper think over the next couple of months of where he's going to go, because at the minute it's not clear. I don't think he knows.
I think the difficulty for George Groves is at the minute he's appearing very hittable. I mean, he's being out-jabbed at points by a light middleweight who's the size of a pygmy, and that's a pretty big problem when you've got George Groves' chin. He's also not a high-class stamina fighter. I think James Degale gets him out of there in 3 or 4 rounds if they fight in a minute. I think Carl Froch probably does the job on him again if they fight. Callum Smith versus George Groves is one that's being discussed. My personal opinion on this, and he's a big George Groves fan, is that Callum hasn't faced anyone who poses the offensive questions that George Groves does. Callum Smith looks like a good prospect. He's never had someone attack him with the dynamic nature of George Groves' forward assault. At this point, I rate Groves ahead of Smith, despite the recent poor performances. Your thoughts on that?
I agree. I really like Callum Smith. I think for the division he's a bit of a monster, to be honest.
Yeah.
If he can keep making weight and keep improving as he has, then what a prospect. I like the guy as well. I think Callum Smith comes across really, really nicely, and I like the family. Obviously, Paul Smith, he's riding on the crest of a wave at the minute. It's funny to watch, and bless his cotton socks.
How do you see a Callum Paul fight going?
I think it'd be very, very sad for Paul. I think that would be very sad indeed. But I think Callum Smith could be something quite special. I don't think he's ready for George Groves at the minute.
I agree.
I'd like to see him step up, see what he can do, but I think it's probably the right thing to do, like getting the chat going about George Groves, begin to start calling him out, I think Callum Smith is too nice, really.
Yeah.
We saw him on ringside a couple of weeks ago with Degale and George Groves. He looked like a little lamb there. Those guys are just tearing bits out of each other. You got Callum Smith being like really polite, really genuine. That's fine, but he does need to sort of, lose that if he's going to start being taken seriously in that sort of division and that sort of level. So I like the fact he's calling out George Groves. I don't think it's a fight he should want imminently, but maybe this time next year it could be something to look at.
What did you make of his performance at the weekend?
Decent again, not spectacular. Not the same sort of effects as Joshua did. I was absolutely blown away by that once again.
We'll come to that in a minute.
Callum Smith was good. He was decent. Again,
professional.
He won. Yeah. Professional is the right word. Not overly destructive, but you don't have to be destructive to be a very good boxer. And he's going that direction. I just think he needs to continue to progress on that sort of steady curve. And
what about Callum Smith versus Rocky Fielding?
The biggest problem with Rocky Fielding is Rocky Fielding. I
agree.
He looks very impressive the last time I saw him.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I couldn't recall quite how long, but it's been a good few months since we've seen Rocky Fielding in the ring, I'd guess.
Yeah, I think he broke his hand.
Broke his hand, okay. I mean, that was, at the time, I recall, quite a major win for Rocky Fielding. It seems to surprise a few people.
Yeah.
So it's unclear at the moment. Callum Smith v Rocky Fielding. The instinct would be Callum Smith at this point, but not strongly, because I think there's quite a few question marks over Rocky Fielding as how good he could be.
Yeah.
I see him as like a bit of a joke figure at the moment. I think he does as well, so I don't think it would offend Rocky. It would be another fight that would be interesting to see. Probably the sort of fight that would come up before a Groves. Like,
Yeah.
it would be along that sort of progressive curve for Callum Smith. I think Callum Smith would win that, but maybe he wouldn't. Maybe we'd be having a different conversation next summer and Rocky Fielding would come out and blown a few good guys away. But at the minute, I think Callum Smith has a higher upside than Rocky Fielding.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. So, we got past McDonald, we got past Quigg, we got past Saunders, we got past Smith, got past Groves.
I'd like to make it clear it was not easy getting past all of that. It was hell.
There was a lot of Guinness junk.
Hell.
Let me talk James Degale. Now, Richard Dwyer, widely known as probably the biggest YouTube pundit, has said that Degale is now in his top 3 pound for pound alongside Mayweather and Andre Ward. I am the biggest James Degale fan you'll find. The chap to my right disagrees with me. Talk to me about James Degale, Marco Antonio Peregrine.
Okay.
And compare it to George Groves versus Dennis Douglin.
James Degale, first and foremost, I cannot stand as a bloke.
Yeah, that's irrelevant though.
No,
That's irrelevant. It's the same
irrelevant.
with Eubank Saunders. It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant, but I think boxing is, it's sort of showbiz sport, and I think if there's so much set up for the spectator with weigh-ins, press conferences, build-ups. I think it does become relevant, right? I don't want him to be successful, whereas there's other guys that I do want to be successful. I don't like James Degale. Cannot deny the other day that James Degale was impressive. Like, I think the shape he's in isn't. We'll have this conversation later, I'm sure, about Tony Bellew, and I'll appear slightly hypocritical, but I think James Degale doesn't quite look right in terms of.
He's not the most athletic. Yeah.
I don't think so. He was decent, and he knocked someone out with a good punch. Like, he was capable of a knockout punch, as many boxers are. I'm not blown away by him. I don't watch him and think, wow. I do with Anthony Joshua. I have with other guys, but he's doing the right sort of stuff. I'd like to see him against Groves. I think a lot of people would like to see him against Groves. Froch, the other one that's thrown around.
Yeah, I mean, he destroys Froch. The Groves fight is competitive from my eyes.
But saying he destroys Froch is, again, speculative.
Yes, of course it's speculative. We haven't seen the fight.
It is rare to destroy Froch.
Well, you say it's rare. Let's not. Andre Ward destroyed Froch, and Andre Ward turned down a fight with James Degale. Like, George Groves destroyed Froch for 8 rounds, and James Degale doesn't have the stamina problems George Groves does.
So I can't stand Cole Froch as a person. Well, I love to hate Cole Froch. He's hilarious. He does just win though.
I think James. My opinion is James Degale is Britain's top technical boxer. My further opinion would be that James Degale is pound for pound in terms of ability, but not in terms of the opposition he's beat. So I think in terms of ability, attribute, skill set, yeah, James Degale is a pound for pound fighter. He just doesn't have. I mean, he lost to George Groves, and other than that, who's James Degale actually beaten? Well, Paul Smith. That's not pound for pound style chat. Peregrine, yeah, Peregrine's a good scout, but this is a guy who got lost to J. Leon Love, Like, that's not spectacular form. Let's move on from Degale. We'll chat about Degale a lot in the future, that I'm sure of. Let's talk Anthony Joshua, let's talk Bellew Cleverly, then let's talk the Frank Warren show next week. Let's talk Joshua versus Sprott first. Your thoughts?
Very much what I expected, and I imagine a lot of guys expected. Yeah. Another absolute blowout for Joshua.
Sprott wasn't a step forward from Backtop though, was it?
No, not at all. Sprott Sprott turned up to get paid. I thought it was quite sad to see, to be honest. Like, there was no chance of a proper fight there. It was over before you know it.
Yeah.
I'm a bit sick. Like, I like Joshua. Like, I think he's really dynamic. What I like about Joshua is he comes out to knock people out each time. He is just like getting it over and done with. He's not trying to be clever about it. He's not trying to be safe and ensure that he doesn't get punched and he doesn't, you know. He comes because he backs himself to knock someone out. He does it every time at the moment. And I think it's very hard to criticise that because that, you know, he's doing everything that's asked of him. But it's got the time to sort of put him in with someone decent has got to come soon. It does sound like that is about to come.
Yeah, so the chat is January 31st, Kevin Johnson. Kevin Johnson, for those who don't know, went 12 with Vitali, went 12 with Chisora, went 12 with Fury. He's not a guy who comes to win, but he's a defensive master. He's got amazing durability, he's got an amazing chin. This is a guy, his foot positioning, his positioning in the ring is world class. He doesn't have certain attributes to his game. He's a limited fighter, but his defensive elements are second to none. I don't see Anthony Joshua stopping Kevin Johnson. I really don't. Kevin Johnson is a massive step up from Michael Sprott. Kevin Johnson, I expect to lose every single round against Joshua, but I expect to stay the trip. And with Joshua's stamina concerns, I mean, look at his build and look at how he faded in the final round of the Olympic amateurs. Look at how worn out the guy was in the Olympics. You have to question whether Kevin Johnson actually is a big threat. Your thoughts on Anthony Joshua versus the Kingpin?
I must admit, my knowledge of the Kingpin, as we're calling him, is absolutely zilch. Beyond what I've heard just now. My guess is Joshua will continue to improve. I think he'll... This sort of knockout blowouts has to stop soon.
Yeah.
I think it would be a positive thing for him if it did stop then. You know, if it was
I
sort of
agree
poised
with
way.
that, yeah.
My guess is it won't be. I think he's that destructive at the minute that he will just knock
But
this guy
what
out.
I would say to you, right, is Tyson Fury isn't the biggest puncher in the world. He isn't. But if you put Fury in with Sprott, he would look devastating.
But I think the way Joshua's going about it with these guys, if this chap isn't a genuine threat to knocking Joshua out, and he is just piling in, then the chance of knocking him out is still very, very high. And I think Joshua does just back himself to get the job done, and get it done quickly. So yeah, prediction. And I like, if we're honest, my predictions have been spectacular of late.
Better than mine.
Prediction, Joshua will knock this chap out.
Like, Joshua's never faced a mover. He's never faced a jabber. He's never faced a defensive fighter. He's never faced someone who could hit back. Kevin Johnson, whilst very far from elite level, ticks a few boxes. It's a big step up. If Joshua knocks Kevin Johnson out, I'll be accrediting Joshua. Let's be honest. Joshua stopped Sprott on his feet. Erkan Kalimian knocked him spark. Joshua knocked Baktov out on his feet. Eretz out on his feet. Skelton out. Dubious. He's not a David Price style puncher. He's not a Deontay Wilder style puncher. He's not a David Hay style puncher.
I think with Joshua,
we'll see how he does against the Kevin Johnson.
I don't think with Joshua it's just that one knockout punch. I think it's the sort of combination and sort of assault that he brings, which is so devastating. It's not like one big punch.
Yeah.
He piles in. He's so quick. He's so powerful. But it's just an assault, and I think that's different. That's slightly different.
But it's so easy. It's so easy to look like that when you're facing Michael Sprott, mate.
But it's hard to say he can't look like that again.
Yeah, but this is the same chat we're about to have about Eubank versus Saunders. Yeah, it's hard to look like that, but you know, David Price. Anyway, we're 19 minutes deep into this video. I don't want it to last an hour. Let's wrap up last week's chat by talking Bellew cleverly. I was strong cleverly, you were Bellew.
Yeah.
You won.
Yeah, I mean,
Did the fight go as you expected it to go? Or did you expect the KO?
My honest prediction in this fight was, I said, I thought on paper the classier boxer was Nathan Cleverly. I said the sensible bet would be Nathan Cleverly. However, my prediction on the fight was that Bellew would win. I also thought if Cleverly was to win, it would be an early win. I thought if it went into the later rounds, Bellew would win, be it by knockout or otherwise. I thought the most likely outcome was a Bellew knockout in the later rounds.
Yeah.
Purely
And to be
because
fair, I thought Bellew would stop him 9, 10, 11.
I thought it was such a increase in weight for Cleverly that it was going to be difficult for him to last. It did appear that was an issue. That said, having looked at the fight, two pretty poor fighters, if we're honest. Whatever, Cleverly's won his world titles, but right now that is not a fighter people are going to be too excited by. Certainly not right now.
No.
What a fantastic spectacle those guys managed to build, though. It's two guys that may or may not hate each other, who managed to create, sort of widespread viewing on a Saturday evening, and that was by far the highlight of the show. It was very good viewing. It wasn't the classiest of boxing. Both guys were out on their feet in the later rounds, but I did like what Bellew did. He didn't come and he claimed he'd come in and he'd fight till he was dying and knock the guy out. He didn't, but both guys were knackered. And what I liked about Bellew is his work rate was superb throughout the fight. He threw so many punches. He never stopped moving, and the fact he looked tired, fine, he was exhausted, but
he left it in the ring.
He really did.
Look,
and he wanted to win that fight, and he won that fight, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm the biggest Clev fan out there. I scored it 7-5 Bellew. How did you score the fight?
Well, I had Bellew 4-2 up at one stage. Perhaps, was it 4-1 at one stage? I thought Bellew was...
I think that's absurd.
We disagreed, but for me, the judging of boxing is...
subjective, isn't it?
It's very subjective, it's unclear. I like to see guys actively boxing. I like taking a quote from Bellew, but sort of coming to a fight. I do like guys doing that. Keeping someone at range and flicking the odd jab. It's so boring. I get that you get these technical masters, and there is scope for that. But what Nathan Cleverly was trying to do in the early rounds was not a technical masterclass. He decided to stick his left arm out and flick his arm a few times, and it did work because Bellew is so very poor. But it was okay for a while, but Tony Bellew did absolutely graft in that fight. And that was impressive, and I think he deserved to win it, and good on him.
He did deserve to win it, and you're right, good on him. How do you think he does at world-class level?
I don't think Bellew is a very good boxer at all.
No, I agree.
He's a good British boxer. He's a very good personality for boxing.
He's like a Paul Smith, isn't he?
Yeah. He's a good personality for boxing.
Yeah.
Takes himself seriously, but is quite a good guy. And I think that was fantastic. I'd love to watch Tony Bellew try and beat Huck, is it called?
Yeah, Marco Huck. Yeah.
I'm sure when that fight's set and everyone gets behind it, there'll be a similar thing to the Paul Smith Abraham, and everyone will want the British guy to do well. Fantastic. And how good would it be if Tony Bellew was a world champion, Hollywood actor, and destroyer?
He can't be a world champion. He's too hittable. He's got a chin problem. He doesn't hit hard enough. He's got stamina problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's very unlikely.
I mean, let's be honest. Nathan Cleverly was poor beyond belief, and he almost won the fight.
I don't think Bellew is a great boxer.
Yeah.
I think he's slightly better than Nathan Cleverly. And in terms of Bellew's life, I think Bellew would rather beat Nathan Cleverly than be a world champion.
And he'd probably make more money from beating Cleverly.
And he's done it.
And just briefly, Nathan Cleverly, career or retire?
I don't... There's a lot of chat in boxing. If people aren't, they're either world level or they stop.
Yeah.
I don't buy that. I think, there's still money to be made, as this fight just showed.
Yeah. This is a British level fight, and we made a lot of cash.
There'd be very good money to be made of the third one of these two guys. That said, Nathan Cleverley could find another, someone else to pick a fight with, and they could build it up well, and it could happen. So he doesn't have to retire. That said, he's a guy with a maths degree. He's probably got loads of money. Boxing is a very dangerous sport in times. If he wanted to step away, I wouldn't begrudge him for it. He didn't look like he was loving it the other night. So, if I was him, I'd probably try and give it. It's difficult, isn't it?
It
is difficult. You can't really take the cruiserweight thing seriously, having lost to Bellew.
No.
I think what he needs to do, Cleverley needs Bellew to beat Huck. If Bellew beats Huck,
that won't happen.
If it did happen though, the Cleverley form with Bellew is okay.
Yeah.
And what a fight that would be for a world title.
Let's talk.
But it can't really happen.
Let's talk bad blood now. Just to set our points as clear, we're both, the two of us, going off on a romantic weekend together to the weigh-in. Looking forward to it. I know you've got particularly strong opinions on the Frank Buglioni Andrew Robertson fight. But joking apart, obviously you've got Skeet Gavin, you've got Sykes Wass, you've got Chisora Fury, and you've got the real main event, Saunders Eubank. We'll focus this on Saunders Eubank and Fury Chisora. Talk to me first on Fury Chisora.
Before the Fury Chisora, I'd like to just get my Buglioni line in. I've always liked Buglioni. I think this is really a great opportunity for him to show the sort of critics what he's capable of, really fulfil the hype and show that he's more than just a good-looking guy with a pretty face. I think he's going to come out on Saturday and really surprise a few people. But we'll go to Fury Chisora now. A few weeks back, this guy next to me loves Tyson Fury. I've enjoyed trying to sort of crush that dream for a while.
Even though you are a mentor to young Huey.
I like young Huey. I must admit, I think he's a terrible boxer, and I've told him this. This
is like young King Fury.
No.
Not the amateur Huey.
There's two, okay. There's Huey Fury, who's the good one, and Young King, who's the shit one. Now, the shit one and we speak regularly on Facebook about his diet. I think he's got all the talent in the world. I think he could be a world champion. I see him as a cruiserweight option rather than a heavyweight option, and we're going to have a further chat about this on Friday. But at the minute, his diet is absolutely despicable. And I'm going to
This is Young King.
Young King.
Anyway, let's talk Fury Chisora.
We're going to get that right. But Tyson Fury, having done a bit of further research and having looked at this a little bit more, I do think Tyson Fury will put Chisora away. I think it could be quite a tough fight, quite an awkward fight. It could go the distance. I hope it does, because it's a shame when these fights are over quickly. I think Tyson Fury for that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to do a final thoughts video on this tomorrow, so please do check this out. But Fury Chisora, let's be honest, Fury spanked him when Fury was 22. 22 is very young when you're 6'10". Fury's been in with better opposition since Steve Cunningham, Kevin Johnson, etc, etc. Fury has got better trainer now. He hits harder. He's more ring savvy. If anyone's got any doubts about Tyson Fury, please look at the Tyson Fury Kevin Johnson fight. It's a boxing masterclass. The double jab right cross. It's beautiful. Beautiful. It's pornography for a boxing fan. Now, the only other thing I'd say is Tyson Fury has proved throughout his career he's susceptible to the overhand right. Look at the Nevin Piket's fight. Look how Piket's drops Tyson Fury. Look at the Steve Cunningham fight. Look at how Steve Cunningham drops Tyson Fury. Neither of these guys are big punchers. Neither of these guys are elite level heavyweights, and they throw an overhand right that drops Fury. Where Fury's susceptible to a Nevin Piket's overhand right, he's susceptible to a long looping overhand right for Derek Chisora. That's one way he loses the fight. The other way is the Chisora body attack, similar to Chisora Vitaly Klitschko, where Chisora was relentless on the inside, landing that. I think the thing is that Fury is an elite level inside fighter despite his height. He's got inside game, outside game, he's got jab, he's got movement, he's got power, he's got defence. He is hittable, But Chisora isn't going to be the sort of boxer who punishes you with one punch, even a new improved Chisora. And I think if Fury had the minerals to do him when he was 22, he's going to sort him out now in his peak. Inactivity, yes, it is a problem, but this is a guy who's been sparring daily with the likes of Eddie Chambers, David Allen, Hughie Fury, your friend Hughie Fury,
the shit one,
etc. So, you know, he's in a good place. I'll do a final thoughts video tomorrow, but I'll be very strongly on Tyson to win this one. Chisora's a durable guy. I've seen Chisora fight in the flesh multiple times. I went to the Chisora Hay fight, for example. He can be stopped, but Fury, in my opinion, isn't the elite level puncher David Hay is. So I think most likely points, and I see 9 rounds to 3, 8 rounds to 4, that sort of scoreline. Let's talk Eubank Saunders, because this is one we disagree on.
Pretty confident myself that young Eubank will put him away in this one.
Why?
Okay, this is based on a very small sample size of watching him blow away nobodies very impressively. And the fact, I've said this before, it is so absurd. The fight is crazy. It's so ridiculous that he's got this fight at this stage. That they, like Chris Eubank and his camp, must just know something.
What about Billy Joe rejecting a world title shot for this? Must he not know something?
I think he's chasing the money. I don't think Chris Eubank Jr. needs the money as much as Billy Joe Saunders does.
Good comment.
I think Billy Joe Saunders has admitted that he dropped the title fight for the money here. So I think he's doing it for the paycheck. Chris Eubank Jr. is not doing it for the paycheck. And Chris Eubank Jr. could get this fight next year if he wanted it. I think they're confident that he's ready now. Oh, look how stupid Chris Eubank looks if his son loses. This is a guy who's he's a credible voice within British sport. He's obviously a bit of a joker, but some of the comments he's come out about of late are crazy. He's so confident and so over the top that if this doesn't go to plan, you know, it's all gone. It's going to be so hard to come back from this. The way they talk about Saunders' capability, his level, how do you justify losing to that guy? It's impossible.
Who do you think's got the better attributes?
I think Chris Eubank Jr. is phenomenal. I think he's very fast, very capable. I think as an athlete he's superb. I think his pedigree is fantastic. I think to have a guy like Chris Eubank there for you in the corner is amazing.
What do you think about... Here's the analogy I've used many times. Say a League 2 football team wins every game 25-0. Could they get promoted straight to the Premiership?
It's a poor analogy, that. I don't like this. League 2 football teams have players of League 2 level. This is a guy who's been fighting against League 2 type of opponents.
What about Glasgow Rangers then?
Yeah. Could they get into the Premiership and compete? It's a poor example because they're in the Scottish 3rd Division or 2nd Division. Could Celtic? Why not? They've beaten Barcelona.
My point is, if you spend your life knocking out 10 stone 7 pound guys, you've got 20 losses on no record. How can you be prepared for an unbeaten?
You can be prepared by sparring with Carl Froch.
Yeah, but Carl Froch doesn't.
You can be prepared for sparring every day with Chris Eubank.
You're not prepared for the back foot masterclass Billy Joe's about to put
It's
on.
very difficult to say that Tyson Fury is brilliantly prepared with all of his sparring and then say Eubank Jr. isn't with all of his.
But Tyson Fury needs to go out and beat Derek Chisora.
It is hard.
Eubank, Billy Joe Saunders, let's not forget, this is a chap who got selected for the British Olympic team at 18. He's 19, he was the not undefeated, that's incorrect. He was the world #1 amateur. Let's not forget,
in the Olympics?
he didn't medal.
He didn't medal?
He didn't medal, he was 18 years old.
Degale?
He got bronze.
Okay. So Olympics isn't quite all that,
To be selected for the Olympics is a big deal.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, this is a guy who went the distance with Spike O'Sullivan, who recently KO'd Fitzgerald. He beat Spike O'Sullivan. Yeah, he's the guy with the face hair like myself.
Disgusting.
This is a guy who KO'd Blandamura. This is a guy who KO'd Jared Fletcher in 2, who went on to fight for a world title. This is a guy who beat Matchroom's top middleweight, John Ryder.
For me, it's an argument I'm sick to death of. I'm happy to pull away from these podcasts and not give my opinion if Eubank Jr. does lose. I am certain he will win against Billy Joe Saunders. I could not be more confident, and I think we'll see that at the weekend.
We'll see. My prediction is what will happen is it will be a fight that doesn't quite catch fire. There won't be any centre of the ring action, and it'll be a fight that doesn't please the casual fans. It'll be an example of superb back foot boxing, unbelievable angles, unbelievable movement, a sort of strong jab, and people will say, oh, but Billy Joe Saunders didn't come to fight. Oh, but Billy Joe Saunders isn't a warrior. And Billy Joe Saunders will go on and win the world title.
If Billy Joe Saunders does beat the most dangerous man on the planet, then fair enough, but for me it's very unlikely. Impossible, actually.
Which card are you most looking forward to then? Or which card do you think is the better card? Frank Warren's card or Eddie Hearn's?
Having seen Eddie Hearns, I'm somewhat...
Yeah, let's go before.
Because I couldn't stand it. But if we look, both cards have 2 fights worth watching. I personally think the Joshua one was worth watching with Sprott. It ended up being an absolute nothing, but it was a fight that I was interested in, and the Bellew Cleverly, obviously.
But you'll be interested in watching like Romeo, won't you?
It's like, the loose interest.
Yeah.
Like, I know who will win.
Yeah.
Like, I know he'll do a silly dance, and I know he'll look ripped to shit. Like, I'm interested in watching him in the same way, you know, you're interested in watching Groves or Degale beat a nobody.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could wake up in the morning, check your phone and see that he's won. Brilliant. Like, wait till he fights someone normal. I think the second one is a better card, mainly because I think the calibre of boxer is better. I think as a, you know, a sort of top fight, Fury, Chisora are 2 of the better British heavyweights, 2 of the top guys. You know, Bellew and Cleverly are 2 of the better British cruiserweights, but it's a worse division. It's far less glamorous and far less exciting. For that reason, that's to me a better main event. And then you're comparing the second best fight to, you know, the second best fight on this upcoming card is clearly the Saunders Eubank, and you're comparing that to a number of, you know, absolute walkovers on the Sky card, which...
You got a number of 50-50s. Sykesy versus Walsh, Skeet versus Gavin. Yeah, it's a... Lastly, what do you make of my face on her?
Well, I think that's superb. I think the... I don't know if you guys have noticed, but ever since Paul Smith went out and did his thing against Arthur Abraham, this chap's decided to grow out a beard. Is it a coincidence? I'm not sure.
If you see us at the weigh-in, we'll both be there. Do come and introduce yourself. Mine's a Guinness. What's yours?
A lime and soda.
Have a good one.
It's only because of young Shid Fury. I told him I'm going to cut the beers if he does.
Thanks for watching.